I need to watch my meals.
Well, CNN says white people are evil Nazis, so I mean, I disagree with both statements, but I get the pros.
I don't like the word evil next to Nazis. I think we need to look at.
Oh my goodness! Just because you don't like one group doesn't mean the other. But look,
I love Jewish people, but I also love Nazis.
Oh man! Well, I have to disagree with that.
So, can y'all explain to me how Kanye came out, real revolutionary, said some wild shit, apologized for it, apologized again for it, then he went back to hang out with white nationalists, and now he's doubling down. I mean, I don't even know, like, what's up with him? Like, I don't. Y'all tell me, man. I can't make.
What's up with him?
I just can't make sense of this. Like, the dude, he's so unhinged.
We don't even have a real question. Just like, yo, what's up with him?
I don't have a real question. Just like, how do you hang out with David Fuentes? Is the dude's name? Like, I don't know if you watched any of the footage of the guy he's been hanging out with. I don't know if you watched.
I started watching him after G said he watched hours of
his debates.
His debates. So I went to go look because I wanted to do a little research on who this guy is because I just knew it wasn't good when Kanye was hanging with him. Like, he's wild.
I watched
he says some wild stuff.
I watched the clip of him saying nigger like 4 times. And I couldn't understand how this was. And it's like, it's one thing to repeat a rap lyric. It's one thing to have a slip of the tongue once or twice if you're reading a book. He was just in open conversation on his show, whatever it was, just saying nigger. I'm just like,
yeah, he I'm in tech, right? And I have a little bit of an understanding of data. He's one of those people that uses and manipulates data to obviously push his agenda, but he's just apparently just popular now because he'll use like IQ data and he'll make these wild statements about, well, you can look at the data. Black people's IQ is statistically 30 points lower on average than white people. And then he'll do a whole 3 hours on that. And that'll be his premise. Well, the data says it. So I'm not saying this. I'm not racist. This is the data.
And it's like, he won't tell you where he got the data from, or like if it's actually a good source. Like it's funny. Like, I know I mentioned this before. Like, when you look at like the white nationalists, like the radical people like Fuentes that be on stuff, and then you look at black folks that do the same thing, like Umar Tariq, they all do the same. They get like these crazy talking points and stats that isn't really researched and run with it for 3 hours, and they know they have an audience that's going to stay with them and go with it.
I think the thing is people don't understand that like a lot of the data that these people are using is like self-reported data. So like any sane person knows that I could just lie to look good. I can just not report, or it's not peer reviewed. It's not. There's nobody following the scientific method. There's no like control. Like data. You can't just pull out data without. There's a process for this. Yeah, there's a process for this, and you can't just trust it if you really didn't know if they followed that process.
I hate to say it, but most of those people rely on the stupidity and laziness of others. Like, you just said a bunch of things: control groups, peer reviewed, scientific method. Not to be funny, the average person doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. What do you mean? What is that?
Nor do they care.
And that's the key. Nor do they care. Somebody says, I have data. They're like, oh, it's fact. And this is the misinformation world that we're in now. Oh, I have numbers, so that must mean it's right. And I've argued with plenty of people on the right about this, and they give numbers, and their numbers always come from the same sources. I'm like, you got a .gov on there, a .edu over there, something that is somewhat vetted and actually is using actual control groups the right way, following an actual methodology that makes sense. No, it's just some guy said something sometime, someplace in a completely biased situation, and they're just like, oh yeah, that's facts. It's not though. It's just not how that works. But either way, for Kanye to hang out with him, I mean,
Kanye's
talk
one of
about a
those
new
people.
low.
He's one of those
He is.
people.
When he was, I don't know, you saw like so the Alex Jones interview.
I saw that.
He
It was
just
funny. Breaking out a bottle of Yoo-Hoo, any interview.
he said a bottle of Yoo-Hoo. I'm done.
He bought the bottle of Yoo-Hoo. He was talking to like a fly catcher or something like this, like a net. You talking to like he was doing like a voice, like you could tell he's having some type of traumatic flashback or something like that. He's like, "We're gonna take your money and then take your family next." Blah, blah, blah. Like he was doing all that, talking to the net. Like he was.
What's crazy is that like he says things like, okay, like take your family from you. How? Your wife is divorcing you. She chose you. You acted crazy. She's leaving. How are the infamous they taking her? That don't make sense. Or when he goes and talks about he wasn't talking about Hitler. And let me just very clearly, when you start trying to talk about all the redeemable qualities of Hitler, you're probably in the minority in the room, just in most cases. Because like he was saying things like, you're gonna say that everything he did was wrong. I'm like, funny enough, if you look through historically about how Hitler's viewed, there are things that they say he was effective at doing. He led a whole nation. He galvanized people. He did some things effectively. He did it for the purpose of murdering millions of people. So, like, that's what his legacy is. It's not that he did only one thing. That's the overwhelming legacy of what he did.
Right.
But you speak as somebody who's never read a book or fucking researched anything. And that's sad that you feel entitled to speak on things that you really don't even understand. And you put out these ideas. And of course, you know what's bad? I don't know if you peep. Even Alex Jones is like, we don't like the Nazis here. He was like, well, I like a lot of things that Hitler did, and I think we gotta stop demonizing everybody because like Alex Jones is like, but we don't like the Nazis though. They're thugs and brutes and they've done horrible things. We don't want to condone thinking like that. And the last thing I heard from the clip was like, he's like, well, I like Hitler.
Yeah, he said, yeah, like
you can just see them like they're sitting there like, dude, what is up with you? Like,
we gave you an out. I think I don't know if y'all been following him, but like he walked off of another podcast.
He walked off of one. Wasn't that the one with Fuentes? Didn't he walk off of that? Or he's been with him. It was somebody else
Poole.
there.
It's a guy named Tim Pool.
Yeah, but, that one. Yeah.
I think. Okay, so this is an interesting thought, right? For me, at least. I think I agree with the idea that if people keep stopping people from talking about things, there'll never be a understanding of what they're trying to talk about, because it sounds like whenever you try to say, it seems like when you say something that just is unpopular, they're like, I don't want to have that conversation, ban you. Which for some things I'm okay with, but I don't think necessarily Kanye is doing it in a way that I would be okay with the conversation. But I think there's definitely the sentiment is, hey, I said these things. Let's talk about it. We'll never. So like Kanye says these things, the misinformation gets out, we ban it. So now all the like conspiracy theorists and all the hoteps are out there like, look, he tried to say it. Look, they stopping us from telling the truth. Rather than letting this shit fizzle out and be ridiculous because there's no basis for it.
I think
I think it strengthens the movement. Canceling it strengthens the movement, in my opinion.
I think you're right. I think here's the problem. And I hate to say this, but the problem are conservatives. I'm gonna tell you why. You are right. If you try to silence something that seems harmful, it can be seen as validation by those groups, right? And it will get people to think, oh, you know what, they're onto something. Yep. The problem is we have seen what happens when the right gaslights and allows fake news to run rampant. You get a guy in office that you don't really like, but he was winning, so you kept him. Then you see him galvanize and cause what we would consider, in most cases, an insurrection of people trying to overturn election results. That kind of shit that's some crazy other place. That's not an American first world type of thing that happened. That's some regime change in some country we don't talk about type of shit. So I feel like you're right in most cases, but because they've given a space for you to just say wild shit and no one corrects you, it's now like before you're right. You would say that shit and somebody would be like, nah, that doesn't make sense. But because they've rolled that wave of like, oh, if it's working, then just keep doing it. And now now that you see what's happening, they're trying to distance from Trump. Now you fucked this up. You let his shit run for so long. So now people who mimic that type of behavior are given more of a platform now. Because the crazier it sounds, more somebody's going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can't stop him from saying that shit. That's crazy. You're part of this Zionist state. All the bullshit he's saying. Yeah. If y'all didn't I just think that shit in the first place, it would have been over.
It stops like real conversations that have easy answers. Like, for example, Kanye will say something like, "Oh no, all the Jews run the media, all the Jews are running the banks," and it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, if you were to look at the career pages on a lot of these places, you might be able to say that that may be true, but like, there's like a legit reason for that. Like, there's answers for these things that we're saying, but we never get to them because we're like, you can't say anything about them.
But he's also not going on podcasts that will give answers to that. He's going on places they're going to say, you're right. When he's gone other places, that's when he walked out the Tim Pool thing when they wouldn't specifically say it was the Jewish people. They were like, well, we know who they are. He's like, you gotta say it or it doesn't count. And they wouldn't say it. He was like, I'm leaving. That's what happened. That's literally the scene. He literally said, say their names. And then they did it, so he left. That's what happened. So like he doesn't go places that are going to challenge him, and even that challenge didn't lead to a conversation because most people who don't have answers don't want to be challenged.
Yeah.
When Trump was in power and he asked him a tough question, he would have answered the question. You know, you're a nasty person. You're nasty. Answer the fucking question, dude.
Yeah.
Answer the question.
And even if you think about one of the drink champs, when DJFN, when Kanye said I'm running for president, DJFN was asking like, well, how would you handle this situation? No answers. Like he didn't want to answer the question. Like this is when he was probably getting ready to leave. This was towards the end of the interview. Now he's like, all right, if this happened, how would you handle this? How would you handle this with Russia? How would you handle this with whatever? Because he just likes to run his mouth, like a lot of people.
He has like, no thoughts, no coherent answers for shit. He just doesn't.
You know, I got an idea that could kind of start helping some of this stuff out. They need to bring back those daytime talk shows like Donahue and Geraldo and Sally Jesse Raphael and have Ellen, have Kanye come on there, have people in the audience ask questions like they used to do, have people up there, you know, sitting up there. Yeah, like it might end up in a fight sometimes, but you used to have dialogue. Like you would see a Klan member on Donahue talking to Farrakhan on the same stage. Might have to bring it back.
But that's what I'm saying. That would be amazing to have that. That would be amazing to be like, because like that's all the town hall is. All the town hall is that. They go on CNN and do the same thing, but they're hand-picked questions and shit. Nah, I feel you ask somebody like that, rapid fire, real questions, not vetted, and ask him tough things. Why did you say DEFCON 4 on Jews? Just answer that. See what he says. Because when you see how batshit crazy he is, you'll be like, yeah, he lost my vote. I can't go with that. Like, I feel like you don't have that. Clear answers, clear responses to things. But I mean, if you hear Kanye talk, it's every single thing is like, okay, he gives you a half answer here. He was on to something else that's crazy. And because everyone that's interviewing was always saying, like, you know, hey, well, we agree with you. They all want to like be his best friend. There's no like stopping the buck and saying, yo, what do you mean by that? You explain that. For our listeners at home, can you explain what that means? There's none of that. There's no actual journalism. There's just a bunch of like yes men nodding their head because they know, oh, Kanye's on, we're gonna do great numbers. That's all that matters to them. And that's I think the problem. If he went on an actual podcast that would challenge his view, it'd be different. But he went on CNN like once. He ain't going back. He's not going back. He's doing the right wing shit now. He's gonna go where everybody's gonna love him.
And he's just using talking points that they give him. So all these people, y'all keep thinking he's a genius. When do you sit there and see him thinking for himself? Like, oh, he's a free thinker. No, he's not.
He's not.
Same talking points that you hear all these other people tell him to say.
Every
like
point
he heard
is
it
an
from
old
people.
point. There's no new point that he's made. None. Even the whole going against the Jews thing, nothing is new that he said.
No.
Nothing.
So it's like ain't no free thinking. Like he's going like these are all talking points somebody already said. Like he's not like stop thinking he's some type of genius and there's some type of end game to this. Because there isn't one.
No.
Like Kanye, I will say this. He does a great job. His personal issues, like everybody's issues. He's like losing his family.
We all
like,
losing our family.
Right,
it's attacking the black family right now.
Attacking a black family, attacking a black father. Like, I'm struggling with these deals. Well, these the Jews trying to shut me down. They trying to shut everybody down.
The Jews trying to shut all the blacks out. I'm like, it's like
is that happening? Dealing with right. They're dealing with you. They're not dealing with us. Like, you know what I mean? Like this, like don't. He does that. Like he really the same. Antonio Brown does the same thing. Personal issue makes it seem like, oh, this is a black issue. Or this is somebody trying to silence me and all this other stuff. Like, no, this is your personal problem.
You know what? I would accept it, but the problem with people like that is when things are well and you're rising, it's you. It's you're amazing. You're the best of all time, Antonio Brown. My only regret is that I could never see from your view how amazing I am. And here's the thing, I 110% believe that nigga really feel that. His only regret, not the millions, maybe tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars he lost on the table. Not that. Not the fact that he ruined towards the end of his legacy. Not that. Not the fact he's out in a hotel throwing his junk to people and putting his cheeks on people's faces. Not that. The fact that you couldn't see me be great. I couldn't see me go be great. In that seat that you sit. Okay. But when you down, it's like, man, we got black people gotta come together. Right. You know, they ought to get me. They trying to cut me down. Kanye, man, trying to take away our family. You know, we seen this going through all the black leaders. We can't have that happen. We gotta protect each other and I'm doing this for y'all. No, you did it for you. You made millions and then billions for you, and you lost it because of what you did. You lost right because of what you've done. You were in trouble because of what you say. This ain't an us thing. This is a you thing. And that's the thing. When you rising as you, when you falling as us. And I just think that inherently is fucking corny. Period.
Off the record, I fuck with Antonio Brown's mentality. As a receiver myself.
Receiver attitude.
Yeah, I feel like you
got. Damn,
if you're a receiver,
I can see myself play.
Yeah, you got to feel like that if you're a receiver. I'm not.
This is why I don't trust y'all. I don't trust football players at all. I think y'all are the most unbalanced motherfuckers on the planet. Just football of all, and it's not often that football, like of every race, creed, religion, you get on that field and you niggas go batshit crazy, from the receivers to the linemen to the coaches. Like, nah, I can't trust you. You may be the only football player I actually trust you.
Antonio, that is a funny mentality to have, especially when you have film, so you can watch yourself. But it's like, I gotta watch myself live.
I was like, I see myself live, not on TV, but in real life, like an out of body experience, just watching myself be great.
Right, I gotta see myself live, man. Dr. Strange got to knock my soul out my chest so I can see it.